Hello and welcome to another video lesson. In today's video lesson, we're diving into one of Python's most powerful, most flexible data types, and that is the dictionary. So to help us understand how dictionaries work, we're going to use a theme that we're all familiar with, which is storing contact names and their phone numbers. So let's explore how dictionaries help us organize and manage paired data efficiently. So I'm going to start by stating that a dictionary in Python is a collection of key value pairs. Think of it like a real world phone book or like a contact list like the one in your phone. The name is going to be the key, and the phone number is going to be the value. Each key in a dictionary needs to be unique and immutable, like a string or like a number. But values can be of any data type and can even repeat. So I'm going to start by creating a new Python file, and we're just going to call this dictionaries demonstration. Okay, we'll just name it whatever we want. This is what it's doing. And so we're going to say to create a dictionary. This is just to create one. You need to name it. So when we name our dictionaries, we're going to want to, it's going to be plural. We want a dictionary, it tends to be used on a collection of things, multiple things, not just one thing. And so it's probably going to be plural. So in our naming convention, we're going to plural whatever it is. And in this case, it's going to be contacts plural. And hang on, I'm getting a quick error. I'll take care of this. It's related to my program not having a viable Python interpreter in PyCharm. Let me just take care of that really quick. Okay, so I added the Python interpreter. It's just a couple mouse clicks away. And then just to kind of give you some of you might be using PyCharm, so a Python interpreter is the program that reads and runs the Python code. So, when you print hello world or whatever your program does, the interpreter is what's going to translate that into instructions that the computer understands. So it is absolutely necessary if we were going to say run this code. But we're not ready to run the code. So we're building dictionaries. So like I mentioned before, we want to name it something. Typically it's a collection of data. So whatever the name is, it might be plural. So we'll say contacts. And then to create the dictionary, we need to use curly braces. So curly braces means dictionary. And we need to create key value pairs. So each element of a dictionary consists of two things, a key and a value. So the key part must be immutable. So something like a string would work. So we'll say this is Ellis, this is the person, and then a colon. So the colon is going to separate the key from the value. And then the value can be whatever we want. Doesn't need to be immutable. It could be mutable. But we're going to create a string that's going to store a phone number. 555, I don't know, 5124. Don't call these numbers. These are just made up numbers. Okay. And then we'll also have Billy, colon, and then their number is going to be a little different. They're going to be 324, 3245 or something. And so we're storing two people in here. So the beauty of dictionaries is that using this structure allows for quick lookup, adding things, insertions, deletion of data, which is much slower or less intuitive with things like lists or other data structures. And just a quick note about why the key part needs to be immutable. You might be wondering that. So in Python, remember, an immutable object is one that cannot be changed after it's created. So like strings and tuples are immutable. Lists and dictionaries, on the other hand, are mutable, which means that they can be changed once they're created. And when we use something as a dictionary key, Python needs that key to stay the same so it can reliably find its associated value. Behind the scenes, Python uses a process called hashing to store and retrieve data quickly. If you try to use something mutable, like a list, for example, as a key, and then that list gets changed at some point in the program, Python wouldn't be able to find it anymore because its hash value would have changed, and that would break the dictionary's internal structure. So that is the reason why the keys need to be immutable. And like I had mentioned with naming conventions for dictionaries, just like with all things, choose a descriptive name that represents the data, and oftentimes it's going to be plural. An example of when it might not be plural would be like, for example, like inventory, right? Like if you had a dictionary that stores like maybe mops, and then we have like 2 of them, and then we have what else, pens, and then we have one of them. The office has a single pen but 2 mops for some reason. Do you see what I mean? So it doesn't always need to be plural. It makes sense to be plural, and then when we loop over dictionaries, you'll see kind of why it helps that it's plural. But you could also do this. And then notice how in this second dictionary for inventory, we're using an integer as the value portion. We're still using strings as the key portion. But in our example, it makes sense that we use this to keep track of how many things we have. If we were trying to say, for example, use something like a list, a list is going to be used to store a sequence of single items. So it's not exactly the right use case for this. So you use a list when you care about the order of items, and each item is just a value. But this use case here, the dictionary use case, we use this when we care more about what each value means, and we want to label the data. So that's when we're going to use that. All right, so you already know how to create a dictionary. You can also, there's another way you can create a dictionary. I'll show it to you so you know how to do it. You can also create a dictionary using the dict function. So you can also do, let's do the inventory one again, because that's kind of on the top of my mind right now. So we'll do inventory again, and then we can use the dict keyword. And in this case, this is a function, and it uses parentheses. So whatever's inside of the parentheses is what we're going to turn into a dictionary. And we'll say mops equals 2. We had 2 mops, and then we had pens. Also, I'm not going to capitalize the M in mops. That's not important. And we said that pens was equal to 1. We had a single pen for the entire office. Yeah, what an interesting office. Okay, so you need to be careful with this method. Be careful because keys using this method must be like a valid identifier and strings by default. Python treats the part on the left, this part, as keyword arguments, just like when you pass named arguments into a function, like when we did functions a couple modules ago. So this means that the keys themselves need to be names that could be used for variables, for example, and they must be strings under the hood, even though you don't write them in quotes. These are still going to be taken as strings. So this is how to do it this way. So this would be, this example here is valid, so I'll put a little note here. And then I'll create another example of where it's invalid. So I'll say inventory 2. And then I'll say, if I did like this, and then I said equals 2, this would not be valid. You would not do it this way. it would create a syntax error. I also want to mention another way that this wouldn't work. So just to kind of drive home when we would use the dict function and when we would create the dictionary the other way without it. So if we did this again, and then let's say we said, how about we do red pens, right? We wouldn't do this either. And then we said that there were two of them. This wouldn't work either. There's a space as well. So if you wanted to have like a space inside of your key, you would actually need to create the dictionary in the above way, like Ellis Stone or something like that. This is valid that there's a space inside of the key. This works, but it wouldn't work if we were doing using the dict function. So if you need keys with spaces or punctuation, stick with the curly braces. Yeah. So in summary, the dict function is convenient and you might have some use cases for it, but it is limited. Keys must be valid variable names with no spaces, no punctuations, can't start with a number. And the curly brace syntax above here is more flexible and preferred for most cases. So I'll get rid of inventory, but I just wanted you to be aware of that, of the dict function. All right, so if we wanted to add new key value pairs to our dictionary contacts, we can do that simply by stating the name, writing the name of the dictionary that we want to add to, square brackets, and then whatever the name of the key we want. So in this case, let's make our key, what can we name? So we have I'll say Susie. We'll give Susie, and then we will assign what the value will be for this key. The key is Susie, and we'll say that their number is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1. Okay. And then this is one of the best features of dictionaries. You can add new data without shifting anything around. This is going to add Susie to the end of the dictionary. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this. Okay, everything worked out, but that doesn't do much. We should probably output it so you can see. So I'll go ahead and I'll comment this out so we can see the before and after. So I will print contacts. Okay, and then in the console, it is showing that we have Ellis, Billy, okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'll uncomment when we added Susie, and then I'll run that again. And then you see that Susie shows up at the end there. So it adds to the end of the dictionary. You can also delete key value pairs with the del keyword. So if like if somebody's number becomes outdated or we're not friends with them anymore, we can delete them. So we can say del, which is a keyword. It lights up, and it should light up. Contacts, and then let's say we stopped being friends with Billy. He's not our friend anymore. So this is going to delete the key value pair entirely. So it not only deletes Billy, but it deletes the value associated with Billy. So I'm going to run this, and you'll see that I only have Ellis and Susie left in my contacts dictionary. So I'm going to get rid of that for now. I also want to go over how to loop through a dictionary. So we'll say how to loop through a dictionary. Okay, so we're going to leave our contacts. We're going to we're going to make it so that we have 3 items. So we have the initial dictionary, and then we've added Susie to it. I'll get rid of this so we don't delete Billy again. And we can actually loop through, we can print every name and number in our dictionary. We'll say for contact in contacts, plural. And this is what I was alluding to in the beginning of the lecture about the pros of using a plural as your dictionary name, is that if we wanted to do some sort of looping through the dictionary, the iterator, we can name it singular of the dictionary name, and then it kind of just it's very easy to figure out what's going on just by looking at the code. We could do X. We could always say for X in contacts. We could call our iterator whatever we want. But when we create code, we like it to be human readable. One, so that when you come back to your code, you can get an idea of what's going on and you don't have to kind of walk through each line to figure out what's happening. Two, if you are collaborating with other people, they look at your code and they kind of see what's going on. Those are just two immediate benefits I can think of for making human readable code. Yeah. Okay. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and use an F string to output the name. And we will also output the number. Oh, hang on a second. It's going to be the contact. We'll go ahead and we'll output just the contact for now. We're going to do more stuff with this loop. Let's just do this for now. So I'll get on, I'll run it, and then you're going to see that we have outputted Ellis, Billy, and Susie. So for contact in contacts, we're displaying the key, which is Ellis, Billy, and Susie. So if we wanted to, let's say, output the values, here's what we can do. So I've gone over F strings in previous lectures, but I can't drive home enough how useful these are. You put an F, and then in quotes, you can put whatever you want to output. And if you include a variable name in curly brackets, it'll output that directly. So it's very useful to use F strings. But again, let's go ahead and talk about how to actually output both the key and the value associated. So to do that, we can say for contact, so we'll keep this iterator the same, comma, number in contacts. Okay, so we want to be able to access both the key and the value here. And to do that, we need to create an iterator for the key, and we need to create an iterator for the value. And to do that, we name our key iterator, separated by a comma, our value iterator, and then in the dictionary name. And then to access both, we use a method of the dictionary called items. So this is a method, and it has a parentheses, and then here's the name of the method, items. And then I'm going to print, using an F string to make it more readable, the name of the person, contact, and then a colon, and then the number. Okay, so this will give us the value of the key at that iteration and the value of, the value at that iteration as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll print this. And then now we have an output that outputs the key and the value. So we have a name, we have a phone number, and then we have it for everybody in the dictionary. Pretty cool so far. There's also a way to count how many elements are stored in the dictionary. So in this case, we'd count how many contacts are stored in the contacts dictionary. I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm going to change our little tag up here to say count how many contacts are stored. And then we will say, we will simply output, so you could see it, or we'll do it this way. We'll create a variable called num of contacts, and we'll set it equal to however many items are in the dictionary. And to do this, you will use the len function. And inside, we will write the name of the dictionary, which is contacts. And this will give us how many key value pairs are inside of the dictionary, contacts. So I will print num of contacts. So I'll go ahead and I'll run this. And it gives me 3, and that's correct because when we created the dictionary, we added two contacts to it, and then we separately added Susie, so that should be 3. So it's very easy to check. So this gets us how many contacts we have saved or how many key value pairs are inside of the dictionary. It doesn't tell us how many, like it doesn't say 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. It counts each pair as a single. So it's a key value pair that gets counted. You can also look up values with keys. So lookups. So to do this, we'll say, we'll output obviously because we want to see it, but we will say the name of the dictionary, which is contacts, whatever the name of your dictionary is, you will use. And then we will say in curly braces, knowing the key, what's the value? Okay, so we know a key is Susie. I don't know why caps lock got hit. If the key exists, we're going to get the value. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, run it, and we get the value. So if you use this syntax where you have the dictionary name and then in brackets put the key, this returns to us the value associated with that key. That's what a lookup is. If it doesn't exist, we're going to get an error. So let's say we had Hamilton. We know we don't have Hamilton in our contacts, so we know this is going to throw an error, but I just want to demonstrate it. So I run the code here, and then it gives me an error that the key error is Hamilton. It's an error with the key. To prevent something like this from happening, like let's say we're not sure if that key exists, we can check if a key exists. So check if a key exists, and then do something, or do something if it doesn't exist, so we don't actually get like an error that would potentially stop a program, or in this case, it definitely stopped the program. So to do this, we would say something like, we would use a conditional statement. So we would say if Hamilton in, and then the name of the dictionary we want to check, contacts. We're going to print, I want to print whatever is stored at Hamilton, at that key. I want the value at that key. So if Hamilton in contacts, output what the value is at that location or at that key, else we're going to print contact not found. No explanation point, this is friendly. We're not going to yell at the user. So I'll go ahead and I'll run this. And it says contact not found, which is correct. We previously got an error when we tried to do a lookup of Hamilton, so we know that this is gonna happen. So again, we're using the conditional syntax with the dictionary to determine if a key is part of the dictionary, and if it is, output whatever value is stored there. Otherwise, print a message to the user, contact not found. We're going to do this with something that is definitely there, which is Susie, a key that is definitely represented in contacts. And we're going to output whatever is at Susie. So I'm going to run this. And we get 6789101, which is the phone number associated with the key Susie. We can also use a more compact and error-safe way to do this as well, using the get method. So we will use the get method. So to do this, let's get rid of this stuff. And because we want to output something to the console, we use print. We're going to say the name of the dictionary, dot, because this is a method of dictionaries. We could say get. So all dictionaries that you create will have this method available. So it's called get. And then in parentheses, we need to put the name of the key, and we'll say Hamilton. Okay, the name of the key, comma, and then something else to put if the key is not part of the dictionary. So this is going to attempt to return the value, but won't crash if the key is missing. We're giving it something, a directive. So we'll say contact not found, right? And this is very similar to what we did before when we used the conditional statement. This get method does that as well. So I'm going to run it, and it says contact not found. And then just like with the conditional statement we used in the example before, I'm going to run this, and we get the phone number, the value associated with the key, Susie. So a use case of something like the get method would be if you're searching for user input without breaking your program. So same use case as the conditional statement we did before. This is a more compact way to do it. And now you know how to do it. What if you're fighting with everybody in your contacts list and you want to delete them? You want to delete your whole contacts list. We would use the clear method to do this. And so to do this, you would simply say, let's go ahead and print our contacts before, and then we will do the contacts and then the dot operator. And then a method associated with, you see all these methods here, by the way, that are associated with dictionaries. We want to use the clear method. And then it has parentheses, opening, closing parentheses after. This is going to clear everything from the dictionary. So I'll print contacts here at this stage. So I run it. And then I get the first part of the code, which is this part where I've created a dictionary, and then I output the contents of the dictionary. And then after I delete everybody from my contacts list, I'm fighting with everybody. And then I output what the result of that was, and it is now an empty dictionary. And when the dictionary is empty, you'll just see these two curly braces if you try to output it. So the dictionary is now empty. Something like this isn't just useful when you want to delete all your friends, but it might also be used for like resetting data or like logging a user out. You want to get rid of everything when you're logging a user out. And then there's a few more methods that I wanted to walk through as well. So we'll say keys method. Here, let me organize this. Let me just give me a moment. We'll do the keys method first. So let's say we want to extract all keys separately. You would actually use the keys method. So we'll say contacts.keys. Here's that method. And then this is going to give us all the names. So I'm going to run this, and then it tells us what all the names in the dictionary is. So it's this. Or R. You can also use the values method, which instead of giving us what all the keys are, it's going to give us what all the values are. So I'll go ahead and I'll run this. And then it tells us the values are these phone numbers here, which is correct. And then if you want all the key value pairs as tuples, you would use the items method. So we'll say dot items, and I'll go ahead and run this. And you're going to notice that everything is outputted as a tuple. It's a tuple because we're using parentheses to enclose a sequence of data. And in that case, it's the key value pairs. So these methods are useful for displaying data or converting to other formats, or maybe you're exporting something. A use case of this would be if you were creating a contact export to a CSV file or like a JSON file or something. So those are those three methods: the keys, the values, the items. We have a pop method, and the pop method removes a key and gives you the value. So it removes a key, gives you the value. So its syntax is similar to the get method, in that you're going to have a key, and then you're going to have a, like you could put a string in case you want to output something to the user in case that key is not available or not part of the dictionary. So we'll say, or you know what, we want to, so I mentioned that pop removes a key and gives you the value, it returns that value. So when you remove the key, you are, what is returned to you is the value stored there. So let's actually say individual number, and then we'll set it equal to contacts.pop. This time, we're not going to use Hamilton as an example. We kind of know what's going to happen there. We'll use Susie as the example. And then if this doesn't work, just say did not find contact. This is already a syntax error because it's supposed to be plural. And then we're going to print the individual number. So I'll run this, and then it gives us the number associated with Susie. However, Susie is not part of contacts anymore. So even though this method retrieves the value, it also gets rid of that entry, that key value pair ultimately. So we can also print contacts. So I'm going to run this. And then you're going to notice, oh, it's only Alice and Billy now, and then their phone numbers. That's because pop, again, removes the key and it gives you the value associated at that location. All right, so that is going to do it for this video lesson. So to sum it up, dictionaries are incredibly useful in Python programming, especially when you're mapping usernames to the data. If you're creating any kind of lookup system, you want to do dictionaries. And then you even saw we had an example with inventory where we wanted to keep track of how many of each item there were. It wouldn't be useful to use a list because that can only store individual items. In dictionaries, we're able to store key value pairs. We're able to give a label to some data. That's very useful. So we learned what dictionaries are, we learned how to create and modify them, how to look things up, do lookups, delete things, loop through them, and how to use some built-in methods. So at this point, you should work on the lab, of course, but you should also be able to successfully complete the quizzes. So I hope that this video lesson was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will answer them as quickly as I can. So keep practicing. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day.